From the studios of TLC Talk Radio, welcome to A Vibrant Mix with Tasha, Tamiko, and Fred. I'm your girl, Tasha, here with Tamiko and Fred. What's up, co-host? What's up, Tasha? Happy Friday. Yes.
Good evening.
Friday. What's up with you and your good evenings? Like, you just good evening.
Yeah.
Don't forget to like us on all social media at the handle A Vibrant Mix. Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. We never did go to Pinterest. We don't do nothing creative to put on Pinterest, do we? We don't do that. So we have a great show lined up for you. Our phone guest is our friend, Jason Palmer, and we told you last week that we were going to discuss the yet again another scandal with Chicagoan R. Kelly. And we had a lot of opinions last week, but we didn't explore them in depth. But, you know, Jason is a friend of ours. He's a journalist, well-read, well-knowledged. That's not anything that he can't speak to. How you doing, Jason?
I am doing quite well. Enjoying myself down here on South Beach, just enjoying the weather and chilling on vacation.
Listen, we are jealous but grateful that on your vacation you came to be a part of A Vibrant Mix. So last week we were talking about the video that hit. There was a news report that R. Kelly was running some kind of sex cult, which, you know, took people by surprise. And people said, well, you know, this is happening, but this time the people involved are of age. You know, in the past, R. Kelly had been accused of a lot of things. There was a marriage certificate that alerted the public that he married late singer Aaliyah when she was just 15. There are a lot of stories of people knowing that he would hang out at high schools being a grown man, a lot of out-of-court settlements. And even though there were charges brought against him eventually, he was found not guilty. But this one was a little different because the alleged victim, Jocelyn Savage, is saying, no, I'm 21. I'm not in any kind of danger. You know, let this ride. I'm not being held against my will. Her parents have come out and said, you know, our daughter's being held against her will, and she's not able to contact us. She's not able to call us. And it just got real strange. Jason, what was your thought about the entire situation?
You know, I had to cover the R. Kelly trial. When he went to trial, I had to sit there in that courtroom and listen to the testimony and see the evidence. And I think the one thing that really bugs me about our community, I love our people, but there's too many times we back the wrong stuff.
Okay. And
R. Kelly fits into that category perfectly. And I'm going to begin it and say like this. So, yes, he was found not guilty during that trial. Not guilty does not mean you did not do it. And I'm going to give you the perfect example, which pretty much shuts up all these people who say, oh, he's not guilty, we shouldn't judge him for that, he didn't do nothing wrong, blah, 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 blah. Okay, so he was found not guilty. You know what? Some of those 5 police officers that would Rodney King's butt, they were also found not guilty. Right. Does that mean they didn't do something wrong? Right. How about this officer up in Minneapolis who shot and killed Philando Castile, and we all saw it on tape? He was also found not guilty. Does that mean he didn't do nothing wrong? So I have a real problem when black people will sit up here and say, police officers are wrong. I don't care if he was not guilty. Let's riot. Let's protest. And here we have R. Kelly, who was seen on videotape, which he recorded, urinating on a 14-year-old. And people were like, yeah, but he wasn't found guilty. They need to let him go and live his life. I have a real problem with black people who say that. And especially ones who use the excuse of, well, that was terrible, but, you know, he's a black guy, we got to support him, blah, blah. No, we don't. No, we don't. We can throw that fool under the bus, roll over it, back up, roll over it again.
Right.
We can. You know, as much as child molestation and sexual assaults on women in our community take place, we need to start backing the wrong stuff, the right stuff, and stop backing the wrong stuff. R. Kelly is not an artist that we really need to be supporting in our community. And it really infuriates me when, you know, I hear people and we see people, we got Facebook friends who post, they went to his concert. They did this. You know, had he been a white artist who had done that to a black female, we'd have run that person out of the business.
Yeah.
But for some reason, R. Kelly is still around. So my opinion on this latest thing is he hasn't done anything illegal that we know of as yet because the women are above the age of 18. But let's be honest, it's pretty slimy.
Mm.
This whole situation is pretty slimy from the parents of this young lady, Miss Savage. They're pretty slimy. R. Kelly is slimy. And the only people I don't blame are the young ladies. These are young people. So the other part that bugs me is that people act like once you turn 18, and they say, oh, well, they're adult, they get to make their decisions. How many of us made the wrong decisions at 19? How many of us made the wrong decisions at 20?
Me.
At 25?
Right.
Some people still doing them at 30.
And 40. Not me.
And 40. And you know, these young ladies they're victims of his charisma, of his psychotic sexual desires. So I don't care how old the young ladies are who are in these houses. It's slimy. It's very slimy, and we had a bunch of excuses. Oh, nobody says this thing about Hugh Hefner. We never seen Hugh Hefner pee on nobody on video. We never seen that.
Right.
We never seen that.
That's valid.
So don't compare Hugh Hefner to me. That's a completely different situation. It's not even a comparison. So, you know, it's just, we have a big problem in our community right now, and that we just keep backing the wrong stuff too many times.
How do we
this
change
is definitely one of those situations.
How do we change that mindset, though? Like, how do you get people to recognize? Because a lot of people that I've spoken to, they kind of break Kelly into a couple in half. Well, I only support artists R. Kelly. I just like his music. I mean, he's a creep, but I like his music. How do you change that mindset? Because I'm going to tell you, when Tyrese started bashing the black woman, I hit unlike on every Pandora station that I have. I couldn't handle it. So the same for R. Kelly. How do you change that mindset?
Well, you have to first start off understanding that you're not going to change everybody's mindset. That it's impossible to change everybody's mindset. The second thing you have to understand is that a lot of these idiots who are backing R. Kelly, and I do call them idiots because that's what you have to be backing this fool. A lot of they're really in the minority.
Okay.
They really are in the minority. It's like the people who commit crimes in our community. Mm-hmm. They're in the minority. The problem is those of us who are ethical and moral people, we need to be louder. Okay. We need to stop allowing these voices act like they're the spokesperson for our community. We have to shut them down, basically. And, Tasha and I, we talked last week as this whole thing was unfolding. And I told you, I basically unfriended like 5 people on Facebook last week, just over this whole R. Kelly situation. Not that they backed R. Kelly, but their reasonings behind backing him really disturbed me. It really made me think, do I really want to even have this person as a contact on social media? Because I write some controversial stuff. Don't get me wrong, I won't go controversial, but some of the stuff I was hearing from people, and some of these people had daughters themselves, and the biggest hypocritical stuff you'll hear is, he ain't do nothing wrong, he ain't do nothing legal, but, I would never want my child to be around with him. Okay. So,
Tamiko said last week
that doesn't make any sense to me.
She said she wouldn't let him watch her dog. She doesn't have a dog.
See what I'm saying?
Right. So
I got a problem with that.
What culpability do the parents have? Because if she's 21 and this alleged introduction happened,
22.
She's 22 now. So this introduction happened within the last 2 years. If my child were 35, that's not a connection that I would have made. Like, how I kind of feel like, how could you not have known that this guy had these kinds of, this aura following him? How could you introduce your child to him in the attempt to get him to help your daughter in her music career? Because I ain't heard her album drop. Have you?
Right.
No,
Seen YouTube or anything.
I think there's definitely culpability that can go with the parents, without a doubt. There should be. What level of culpability? if your child does something and they're 19 years old, obviously you can't stop them. You can't stop them if they do it on their own.
Right.
It depends on who we're going to believe in this situation.
Mm-hmm.
Did her father introduce her to R. Kelly, or did she do something on her own and then he came along later? We just don't really kind of know.
Yeah,
right now, we're getting hearsay. The young lady made a video and said, "You know what you did, Dad."
Yeah.
And people are taking that as meaning the father introduced. I'm not saying I don't believe her, because when I listened to some of the father and some of the stuff he said in the video, I had a problem with it.
What
Especially the
specifically?
suits he was wearing.
in the phone earpiece, like she was gonna call right as he was giving his news conference.
What did he
I
say?
mean,
Go ahead.
I have a problem with everybody involved in this.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I definitely think there's a level of culpability in it. Now, did the child, or these young women today go against their parents' advice, which, people in that age group do every day,
Right.
and they did this on their own, or are their parents tempting them out? Let's just put it out there. Did their parents tempt them out?
And then
and
it went
say,
south.
Hey, here's a chance for our family to come up. He might be a little crazy, but if we can get $1 million contract out of the deal, it might be okay.
Right.
We don't
And
really
Jason,
know.
I really think that's the case. I wanted to ask you too, because you said you covered the coverage when he was on trial years ago. I always was very critical of the young lady in the video's parents, because was it the case that the parents would not testify against him during that trial?
Oh, Nico, you're asking me a question that I cannot publicly answer.
I was, and I said this on the show last week because I was so critical of them, because I believe, I'm not the professional journalist,
Yeah.
I believe they were being paid. And it was never brought to light until Sparkle and I guess a few other people brought it to the attention of certain journalists, this video. But I believe the parents were being paid heavily, and I think we mentioned last week on the show, if it was a regular parent, me, myself, and I knew I had an uncle that was a molester, known child molester.
Right.
And I
Uncle
kept
Joe.
sending my child to that house, I would be charged with some type of neglect or child endangerment. But these parents are pimping their children. I really believe that.
Nico, let me try to answer that in a hypothetical situation.
Okay.
So, hypothetically, if someone were to come into some sort of financial agreement with parents,
Mm-hmm.
To basically do a payoff to get people to not testify, while that would be illegal,
Right.
the only people who could testify to it would be the person who did the payoff and the person who took the money. And neither one of those people are going to testify.
None of them.
So you would never get a conviction.
Right.
So hopefully that answers that question for you.
It does, but even before the trial, I was speaking like before this even came to trial, it was rumored, the parents were getting expensive gifts, furniture, and God knows what else was being paid for. So, I just say the parents.
Well, Nico, let's talk about what we can talk about in that trial. That the young lady, how did her testimony go?
It didn't go well. She said it wasn't her.
That's right. And her parents never took the stand.
So
Her parents never took the stand, and she said it wasn't her. Now, everybody saw the video, but it wasn't her. So
everybody who didn't give
I
birth
think
to her knew it was her.
yeah. Hey, should I go to high school with you?
Right.
Yeah, but she said, wasn't me. Well, what can you do? If you're a prosecutor and the alleged victim says, I wasn't no victim, that wasn't me. That kind of blows up any chance you got for a conviction. And that's why I opened the interview by saying not guilty doesn't mean you didn't do something.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
Wow.
And, these parents who do this stuff, it's a problem. It does happen. We see it all the time.
It happens.
I see it all the time in sports. I see it all the time in sports. A lot of times, because I referee 3 different sports, and everybody thinks their kid is the next Michael Jordan.
Mm-hmm.
And some of these parents are paying some of these travel basketball coaches a whole lot of money. Some of these mothers are paying more than just money to some of these coaches. I'll tell you that.
Yeah.
Wow.
Oh yeah.
So that's pretty much the same thing as pimping out your child.
True.
So yeah, I think this particular case with R. Kelly, the only difference is that the ages of the women are all adults. But when you break down to just the methodology and that he uses to bring in these young women, and the fact you realize the man is 50 years old, messing around with 19, 20-year-old women, that doesn't normally happen in a society.
Right.
Unless there's something going on. So, I just think people have to use common sense on this. It's not if what he's doing is illegal. It's what is he doing? Is this morally wrong? Is it wrong? Is this ethically correct? Do we really need to be backing somebody like this in our community? Because there's a lot of talented musicians, always will be, that come out of our community. And many of them could not get the record play or the attention that R. Kelly gets for their talent.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's really a shame of our community, because if we can't respect our own young ladies, then we have no right to say someone else has to respect us. And for me, that's what it all boils down to, because it blows up our credibility as a race of people in the United States when we sit up there and support a person like R. Kelly, and then we ready to burn down the town when a police officer does something illegal.
Yeah. I get that.
What do you think as a community, or not even just a community, what does R. Kelly need? You don't see him. He has friends.
What does he need, or what does he mean?
Need. He has friends. I would say, some people, I remember when he was going through the trial, some people like Kirk Franklin was there for them, but then after it was over with, I don't know if they still have that relationship.
Right.
Tyrese and him were very close also at one point in time. But it's, do we turn our back on him as a person? Obviously, there is some type of illness there. I do believe that.
He's a victim of molestation.
And, I had a discussion with a family friend the other day about people who turn their backs on family members that are drug addicted. And I may have been called one of those persons with this particular individual. But sometimes when enough is enough. You do all you can, and at some point you have to step away. But has anybody really advocated and tried to get to the root of his issues? Is this somebody that could be helped at this point, 50 years of age, or do we just shut them out, blackball them, and then what?
That's a good question, but the issue is going to be...
That's a very good question.
He has to acknowledge that there's a problem.
That's right.
And I don't...
That's right.
I don't know that he's willing to or can or whatever, And
so the problem is, when you get to the level of R. Kelly, when you get to the level of Michael Jackson, when you get to the level of Whitney Houston, when you get to the level of Prince, even when it's clear you have a problem, because they are on the level that they are, a lot of times they don't have a true friend who can tell them, hey,
no,
you got an issue. Yeah. We need to deal with this.
Yeah. Or if they do, they shut that friend out because they don't want to hear
it. Or they will shut that friend out. Exactly. We all know Whitney had problems. Her godmother tried to help her. A lot of people tried to help her. Didn't work. Person has to be willing to accept the help.
Yeah.
We found out later, and it broke my heart, that Prince he had a addiction problem to the prescription meds.
Yeah.
There were people that were trying to help him. When they took him off that plane and put him in that hospital in Iowa, after he OD'd on the plane, there was a problem.
Yeah.
They recommended he stay there for treatment. He didn't. He signed himself out, got off on the plane that same night, and flew back to Minneapolis.
Mm-hmm.
Michael Jackson got enabled. A lot of them get enabled.
Yeah.
I think the same can probably be said about R. Kelly. He has enablers around him. What does he need? Two things. First, he needs his ass whooped. That's the first thing. I'm all for physical punishment and violence. I'm sorry. I'm just that type of person. That's first thing. Second thing is he needs some serious psychiatric counseling.
Yeah.
He needs, not outpatient, inpatient
Long-term.
psychiatric
Mm-hmm.
therapy for the long term. That is what he needs. He's needed it for years, and he's never got it. Now, at this point, he's 50 years old. What are the chances he will sign himself up for it? What are the chances that somehow he'll be forced to do it? Not likely.
Yeah.
Not unless he is convicted of some sort of crime and has to go to prison, which is where he should have been.
Mm-hmm.
And then the judge mandates he get the treatment. But that's what he needs. That's whooping and some treatment.
Agreed.
So, I mentioned earlier that Kelly was a victim of molestation. And so, with all of the, funding for everything we need, counseling, mental health, you'll see more of this. And maybe not on a scale of, an R. Kelly, but as people are victims and then they don't get the treatment they need, then they turn around and victimize other people. You see it in your families, with your friends. You hear these stories. What can we do? How can we advocate for more? I'm scared Fred is going to snap off. Right. For victims, and particularly male victims, because that's swept under the rug. A lot of times when young men are molested by older women, and of course older men too, they with men they sweep it under the rug, but with older women it's looked at like some sort of badge of honor. Like, woman, if you don't get your hands off my 7-year-old, and that person would need the butt whooping that Jason talks about.
That's right. That's right.
I agree.
I'm gender specific. I'm not gender specific on my butt whooping.
Agreed. I agree. And so, how do we get that help? How can we advocate to get that help for people? Because as funds are being cut, particularly here in Illinois, what can we do?
Well, I think that gets to, especially in our community,
mm-hmm.
mental health is not pushed.
Okay.
There are a lot of us who need to be in counseling.
Yeah.
There are people who may not have been victims of any crime themselves, but say you live in one of these communities where there are gunshots going off all the time, and you see people get murdered. I posted on my Facebook page 2 weeks ago. I was visiting my mother in Chatham. 1:30 at night, I hear gunshots. I wait till the police and fire department arrive. About 5 minutes later, grab my press credentials, and I go outside up the street, and I'm seeing a man taking his last breath on a guy who I grew up with on his lawn.
Right.
Okay. As much stuff as I see as a journalist and much stuff as I've seen working in the emergency room in Chicago, that stuff still affects you.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Mental health is just not taken seriously in our community. Everybody thinks if you go get some sort of counseling, it makes you weak.
Right.
And we have to change that stereotype. If you have a toothache, you're not going to go see a podiatrist.
No.
You're going to go see a dentist.
Mm-hmm.
If you have a heart attack, you're not going to go see an orthopedic surgeon.
Right.
If something troubles your brain, which is an organ,
right,
you go to the brain doctor. It's that simple.
Absolutely.
And we have gone through so much mental trauma. To be honest, every black person in America, especially with Trump as the president, we probably all need a psychologist right now.
Mm-hmm.
You're right.
Because of all the stuff we have to deal with, the police shooting us, them redlining what neighborhoods we can live in, and all this stuff that we have to deal with, all that stress just builds up. It just builds up. And if you don't take care of your brain, you're going to have mental breakdown. It's just that simple. I don't know how we get past that, except that we just continue to destigmatize mental health illnesses.
Yeah.
Because there's a difference between being mentally ill and being crazy.
Right.
Those are two completely different things.
And for our listeners, explain it. Go ahead.
Crazy is a guy who gets on the L train, pulls down his trousers, and starts singing "Happy Birthday." That's a person who's obviously just crazy.
Mm-hmm.
Mental health are post-traumatic stress disorders.
Right.
Mental health is depression. Say you lost your mother recently, and 2 weeks after that, you lost your grandmother.
Yeah.
And the week after that, your dog died.
Now,
while it also could make a very good blues song, that could lead to some depression, probably.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And
it's a shock to the brain.
Yeah. Heartache, as per our favorite therapy friend, Love McPherson, heartache to the brain is like being scalded. The same nerves are affected as if you had been burned with scalding water. And so you have to get that treatment. And too many times we tell our people, oh, tough it out.
Or pray about it.
Pray it out. And I'm not saying go talk to your minister, but if he's not a licensed therapist,
you need to go a little deeper than that.
You definitely need to go deeper than that. So, I agree with you. Well, Jason, we really appreciate you being a part of the show. I know that you're on vacation. But we have Fred's question of the day. I don't know if you want to hang around for that.
Oh, yeah, here it is. Come on, man. That's the only reason I go on this Facebook page.
Oh, Lord. Fred, take it away.
All right, the question of the week. You are 2 days from your wedding day.
Am I?
Everything is going good.
Yay.
Oh,
Everything is fine. Your spouse's ex has given them a wedding gift of $1,000. But your soon-to-be spouse says, you're not going to take that. You're not going to accept that. What are you going to do?
So let me make sure I'm clear. So I had Benadryl earlier. So I'm getting married. I'm getting married. My ex decides to write a check to the both of us for $1,000. And
they presented it to you.
Okay. And my fiance says, we're not accepting that.
They said, hell no.
Okay. We ain't accepting it. That's how I feel. We ain't taking it. If it makes my spouse uncomfortable, then well, all right then. It's $1,000 versus my spouse's comfort. Now, we're not gonna take it. That's all I got. We're not taking it. What would you do?
Hey, as hard as it is to find a good mate, right? If it's day and age,
run that check through the shredder. Thanks, though.
Thanks for the gesture, but we're not going to take this.
Yeah.
But who knows? The question is presented one way, and she could have already accepted this, and he could be having second thoughts about her, like, what is in your brain that you've accepted this money? That could cause an issue.
Yeah.
Did she come to him, hey, I was offered $1,000. I don't know what to do. He might be like, what do you mean you don't know what to do?
See, for me,
versus I was offered this and I didn't take it.
See, for me, it would have been an after. I would have taken the check and I would have gone home, honey, so-and-so gave us this. You know what I mean? How you feel about it? Because I'm all about throwing it in the savings account. But if he's uncomfortable with it, then we simply return it. Fred, what would you do?
That's my first reaction when I first saw this was I'm taking the money because I got 5 cents in my pocket. But to me, it's all about what you trust your spouse.
Okay. Because
at first thought you think, okay, he's trying to buy her. He's still trying to get her. He still wants to have a connection with her. That's why he's giving his gift. Because if he's giving his gift, he might try to give other gifts. And what kind of other gifts she may return to him.
Yeah, because $1,000 is significant. I'm thinking about, I had an ex get married, and I love his wife. They're not together anymore, but we're all still cool. I wrote them a check. It wasn't $1,000, but I was also married. So I was just giving a wedding gift. You know what I mean? I don't know. Jason, what would you do? You're newlywed.
Yeah, I just got married, and I know how expensive it was. And $1,000 is gonna put a nice little dent up in that bill.
Right.
I think that's a situation. It depends on what are his intentions.
Right.
What is the relationship like between he and I, her and I? That's really, because I could see a situation, say you are married to this person for 10 years, you all have children, you've been divorced 30 years, and, y'all cool, and he says, hey, congratulations, I'm happy for both of you. I could see accepting that.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I could see an argument for accepting that. But if he's doing it kind of to be spiteful,
Right.
kind of like when dude got birds,
And soul
man,
food.
a job
Yeah,
and
that's
soul
what I
food.
thought
Yeah.
about.
Hmm.
Yeah.
See, if it's dude being done like that, and that guy was doing it, he wasn't doing it because he was a nice guy.
Right.
He was doing it to be spiteful, and because he still wanted birds.
Mhm.
So at that point, it's no, I ain't taking your money, and we going back to the R. Kelly ass whooping part.
Right.
Oh, all the editing I'll have to do.
Now you're trying to be a smart aleck. So,
With a 2x4.
Oh, okay.
yeah, I think it really depends on the situation. I can see it going either way.
Mhm.
Yeah, I agree with you. It depends on the situation, depends on the people involved. But then if the flip is, if your spouse is just, your soon-to-be spouse, just doesn't want you to have a relationship with anybody, you know what I mean, then you have to consider that too.
Yeah, that's a whole different situation.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
But I agree with you in this aspect. If my soon-to-be spouse has an issue with that, if it's really causing a problem between us, it ain't worth it.
It sure isn't.
$1,000 ain't worth that.
Nope, not at all.
But baby, we can go shopping.
Well, some retail therapy will make them feel better.
Right.
That was a great question today. Jason, we thank you for giving us your input and insight on the R. Kelly scandal. I hope that the young lady turns out to be okay. She definitely is going to need some counseling, whatever the root of the situation is and whatever the outcome.
Young ladies.
That's right. They are all going to need, well, how many is it? Jesus. They're going to need some serious counseling. We appreciate you giving your perspective on this.
No problem. A lot of fun as always. I'm out here going to work with me.
Yeah, whatever.
Get a Superman.
Right.
And tell your wife to get a Superwoman.
Bye-bye, y'all.
All
right,
right.
bye-bye. So we had a great show. That was great. I mean, great conversation. He brought perspective that we didn't know. We weren't in the courtroom.
I was able to look at different viewpoints.
Mm-hmm.
So,
And he was good giving us the information between the lines.
Right. Right.
So thanks, everybody, for tuning in. This has been A Vibrant Mix with Tasha, Tamiko, and Fred. Don't forget to like us on all social media at A Vibrant Mix and check us each week for new content. And hopefully we have a new announcement coming up for you. Take care.